Maybe not so much secret weapons for Spurs fans, but I do think these three players are doing things in the preseason that are flying under the radar, and if they carry into the regular season, our Spurs are going to be in good shape.
Go, Spurs, go, 'cause the Giants stay.
What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Thank you, Miss TSR Sports, for telling me about this article, which we're going to cover now from Pounding the Rock. Three players exceeding expectations. Let's talk about them now. First off, Stephon Castle already looks better than advertised. Not only does he look NBA ready from a physical and mental standpoint, but his reported weaknesses have yet to show themselves. Okay? It's a small sample size, and again, the preseason, but so far he's shooting about 43% from three-point land, where he shot 27% and 25% in Summer League. He's also averaging 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal while using his strength and speed to get downhill towards the basket, either drawing free throws or showing off his court vision to find an open player. About the only criticism so far is he is averaging 3 turnovers per game, although 6 of his 9 TOs came in one game against OKC. He might not be quite ready to play his preferred position of point guard, since his handles still need to be tightened, and there may still be a reality check in store against more serious NBA competition than the preseason brings. But if Castle already exceeding expectations But if Castle is already exceeding expectations, geez, say that 100 times fast, this early, that's just another reason to be perhaps too optimistic going forward. In regards to Castle, I'm not surprised. His defense has been solid throughout the preseason and Summer League too. His offense, how quickly it's coming around, that's where the exceeding expectation is for me. This is where it's that secret weapon. I figured the offense would come around in a few years, but he is a strong finisher at the rim and in the paint. And his three-point shooting form looks good. I'm not saying he's going to finish the season shooting 43%. I don't think he's going to finish the season in the 20s. I think something in the mid-30s, 35-ish, which would be great as a rookie and certainly much better than people would have anticipated his rookie season. So Castle, offensively, I'm impressed. I thought he'd come in as a very strong defender and give us a little bit of offensive flair, but he looks like he's going to give us a heck of a lot more than just offensive flair. Up next, Julian Champagnie is playing like a starter. All right, Champagnie was already one of the Spurs' best returning outside shooters from last season, and so far he has been their most steadying presence from outside in the preseason, hitting 13 of 27 from 3 in 3 games, which is just under 50%, while averaging a team-high about 17 points per game. Of course, he won't lead the team in scoring once the season starts. It's going to be Wemby, but for now, he's leading the team in scoring in preseason. While it would be unreasonable to expect him to maintain such numbers, it does beg the question, should he remain a starter beyond just an injury replacement for Devin Vassell? That is a darn good question. This is not to say he should replace Vassell full time. Nope, Devin's getting paid. He's going to be in the starting lineup as soon as he's good to go. But rather slide over to his more natural position of small forward once Vassell returns. Somebody's got to go to the bench, right? Well, this would of course push veteran acquisition Harrison Barnes to the bench. And no, he and I also agree, do not expect Pop to bench Jeremy Sohan. Barnes has been less than impressive in the preseason, but then again, comes another reminder not to overreact, as veterans with nothing to prove rarely turn it on for the preseason. If, Barnes, doesn't turn things around to start the regular season, Champagnie has certainly made a case for himself as a starter if Pop sees a need for a change or wants to go younger. Champagnie started last year with a lot of the guys that are in the starting lineup now, so it would certainly be a natural slide for him, a natural switch to go into the starting lineup. And in regards to Penny, coming into this season, I consider him a role player that's, young player on a cheap contract, but he really is playing like a starter right now. He's shooting with no hesitation whatsoever, and more importantly, those shots are going in. Remember watching Julian Champagnie last year. He'd get the ball, and he'd defer. He was a lot of times looking to pass first and not shoot first. He is shooting first now, and the dividends are paying off. That being said, we have to take this preseason with a grain of salt with him. We've seen Penny play well in the Summer League and preseason before, just to have it not translate into the regular season. I hope this year is different, and if he keeps playing like this and Harrison Barnes plays like he has been in the preseason, I assume he's going to play better, but if he's still in that form, Champagnie's on a cheaper, longer contract, younger player, he might slide back into the starting lineup, and I certainly was against him starting last year, but if he plays like this, we need floor spacing, you're hitting threes like that, my man, you keep doing you. And last but not least, Sandro Mamukelashvili has to get playing time this season, right? Doesn't he? Finally, we get to one of the Spurs' more compelling players. Not only is Mamu a fan favorite, but in the rare instances has been given a chance to play rotation minutes for the Spurs over the last 2 seasons, he has shined. This preseason has been no different. While his defensive delinquencies are delinquencies. Rough day. Struggle's real. Deficiencies are well documented. It's hard to ignore how much contagious energy he brings on both ends of the court and how much fun he makes the game look. His three-point shooting opens the floor for other players, and he's been killing it from three. And while they haven't played together in the preseason, talking about him and Wemby, it's hard to forget how well him and Wemby meshed in the closing stretch of the last season. Yes, they played very, very well together. Mamu probably played his best basketball of his NBA career, having been Wemby across from, which should be no surprise to anybody. I can't move that. What's going on here? Okay. While the Spurs may not have the most talented roster. Oh, whoops. Time out. I got to move back up. In regards to Mamu, sorry, I didn't realize they segued into a different part of the story there. Mamu, playing well, hitting threes at a high rate like Penny. Maybe they practiced at threes a lot in the offseason. Played well with Wemby last year. When I look at the pecking order for big men, Wemby's obviously first, but I would take Mamu over Collins. And right now, you know what? With his injury history, I would take Mamu over Bassey. Unless we need some rebounding and some defensive stops, block shots, etc. Okay, maybe put Bassey in if he's good to go and healthy. But I'm sure I'm not alone in saying this. I'm ready to move on from Zach Collins and just seeing what Mamu brings to the team. He should be getting more minutes. I hope that, we'd have to move on from Zach Collins for him to get more minutes, but I much prefer him on the floor than Zach at this time. I like Zach. I'm ready to go. Ready for him to go. I'm ready to go too. While the Spurs may not have the most talented roster, they truly are 15 players deep. And any individual player could be called upon if someone misses without expecting too much of a drop-off, except for Wemby, of course. Arguably the only young Spur who was fighting for playing time and he's not made a name for himself in the preseason yet is Malachi Branham. But he's shown enough in the first 2 seasons that he will still get his chance. Has he? This is, I want to close the video before we do the last paragraph. Malachi Branham, young player. He's 21 this season? I'm rooting for him. First round pick 2 years ago. I personally don't think he's shown me enough from season 1 to season 2 to at least what we're seeing in the preseason right now. We have 2 more preseason games left. Cheap plug alert. Be live tonight for the Heat at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But if he plays like this the last 2 preseason games, yes, he's shooting more. He's not hesitating, but I think he's 2 of 8 in both games from three-point land, and keeps playing his whatever. No defense. I was trying to think of a name for his defense. He just barely plays defense. He's there. He's a turnstile, I guess. If he keeps playing with this awful defense and inconsistent sporadic shooting, I don't see the Spurs giving him a contract extension. I do believe they have until Halloween to extend his contract. He might not be here next season. He might not be here this season. We've got a lot of young players on this roster. We have a lot of draft picks coming up over the next few years. And if he doesn't show us something, I think the Spurs might just be like, you know what? It's time to move on. I mean, that granted, limited action and against third stringers, I believe. But the Blake Wesley, Stephon Castle backcourts look nice. Plus we have Chris Paul, Trey Jones, Devin Vassell. Our backcourt's pretty deep right now. And I don't see where Malachi Branham gets a role if he keeps playing like he does. I'm rooting for him, but if the Spurs move on, I'll understand. Real quick note, I saw something that the Spurs had to give up a second-round pick to make that trade work yesterday for, I already forgot his name. The guy we got from the Kings. McDaniels? So we gave up a protected second-round pick that's top 56 protected. The pick we got from the Kings is an unprotected second-round pick, so just a little FYI there. And finally, it's hard not to overreact to the preseason, but some unexpected names are ready to make a leap this season, and that will be just as helpful towards their slated goal of making the postseason as the Chris Paul effect will be, and in the long term, that is what is truly important. So there you go, Spurs fans. Your thoughts, those 3 players we just talked about, anyone jumping off the page at you that says, you know what, I did not expect them to do that this year, or are these 3 players all doing exactly what you thought they would? And also, when you're dropping your comment, do you think there are players that are in serious trouble of not making the team when the season starts? Your Malachi Branham type player. Really, Malachi Branham's the one that sticks out. As far as the other players on 2 ways, training camp contracts, who knows? But Branham is a player that's been here for a few years. With the Spurs and Wemby, we just don't have time to develop players like we used to. A good example is Derek White. He's killing it now in year 6 and 7 of his NBA career. Granted, a lot of that was stunted due to injuries, but with Wemby, we can't sit here and wait for players to develop 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. We're ready to win now. This is not going to be a team that tanks. Wemby wants to win now. I don't think we'll be a playoff team, play-in-ish this season. And then after that, it's playoffs every year. In my opinion, playoffs every year until Wemby retires. So, got to get the best talent around him now. And this talent right here has been exceeding expectations. Hit the thumbs up, like, support the channel, subscribe to be part of our awesome Spurs community. Thank you for watching, and as always, go Spurs go.
And then you makes it to Wembley.